everyone, welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Ranieri, and today's guest is an entrepreneur, community builder, and the CEO of Grit and Grain Collective, the hospitality group responsible for bringing Broken Yolk Cafe to Orange County, including Orange, Costa Mesa, Buena Park, and Irvine. If you've ever enjoyed one of their iconic breakfast plates or stood in their weekend line, you've experienced part of the vision Mike DiNorscia has worked hard to grow. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. Okay, so I have to tell you that my friend, she went to San Diego State University, and her and I were driving through Costa Mesa when the Broken Yolk was opening up there. And she was like, oh my God, you guys, like, have you heard of this place? I used to go there all the time in college. So you have a lot of people that I am friends with, and including myself, who are so grateful that you brought the Broken Yolk out to Orange County.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we've been there for, the better part of 12 years. We got started kind of with the first store in Orange County. So it's been a joy to kind of be up there and get connected to the communities that we serve.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you grew up in Pennsylvania. So what was your childhood like? And were there any early experiences that shaped your work ethic or your entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah, so I grew up, I was the youngest of seven, came from a family that was, I came from a family that was kind of two parts. My dad had 4 children before I came along, and basically before he met my mom had a daughter, and then they had 2 more children together. So it was kind of this combined family dynamic. There was a mix of good and bad and all of that, but I was really close to my dad. And from an early age, he was a businessman himself, kind of started out in the mushroom business in Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, I was actually raised in Downingtown, PA, which is just outside of Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And Kennett Square, PA is the mushroom capital of the world.
What?
Yeah. And some of that has shifted, I think, in terms of where production comes from. But it was a very large Italian-American community. And, my grandparents came over. We're in the mushroom business. My father kind of left. He was one of the first. Well, he actually was the only. He came from 3 brothers, or he was the 4th. Mm-hmm. And he was the only one that had gone to college. So he left, went to school kind of during the night, and then got into the transportation business. And his first wife passed away. And when she passed away, he moved the family back and then got into business himself, at that point in time. So probably the best thing for me as a young kid was I got to see his journey in business. And he was kind of just taking off with his business when I was really young. So we spent a lot of times in the car together, and he would talk to me and teach me about what was going on. So I always kind of absorbed that, and ultimately wanted to be kind of just like him. And then, as I got older, I started working kind of odd jobs, and he was always a proponent of kind of teaching you the work ethic. So he would, we had some pretty tough jobs. So we did, we would paint the buildings in the summer and clean up some of the trash and do a lot of the landscaping work. And then I had one summer that he signed me up for a road crew. And I was laying asphalt with a peg and biker crew. So we had some pretty tough jobs, but he really wanted to make sure we understood work ethic and what it took to be successful, and also maybe what we might not want to do as well. So that was all part of the learning experience.
God, I thought working at a hair salon as the person who answers the phone was a lot of work. That sounds insane.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of fun though, and back then we didn't really know any better. So, we kind of just had a lot of fun and just kind of got after it. It was, and he was also tough when it came to, so I would, in some of those summer situations, I would have my friends come along and work with me. And oftentimes they didn't last too long because he was very particular and very tough on us. And I can remember I told the story I've told this a number of times, but there was one summer where we were landscaping, and he had asked us to um, basically weed out an area around the mushroom plant. And he came out around lunchtime and started kind of looking around and basically gave it to us that we hadn't done a good enough job. And my retort for him was, "Hey, Dad, there's poison ivy everywhere here, and we were very cautious that we didn't want to end up with poison ivy." And he laid in us even further. Job's a job, get it done right, so on and so forth. So I kind of motored back, and we tore up the whole area. And the next day, I woke up head to toe in poison ivy.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure he felt awful about it, but it was. It's just funny how that kind of worked out.
Yeah, well, I definitely think it speaks a lot to your entrepreneurialism and all of that. That's amazing. But to fast forward a bit, your professional path started at Hormel Foods in sales before you moved to San Diego, where you co-founded a real estate brokerage firm called Location Matters, which great name. But how did that shift from sales to entrepreneurship come about? And what did you learn from the restaurant world, about the restaurant world from the real estate side?
Yeah, so I think, from a sales job. So my first job with Hormel, they actually hired me and placed me in New Jersey. So I was in New Jersey for a short period of time, and then I got promoted as a sales rep in the New England area. Oh. So I spent I think I was with the company for 5 years, but was in the top kind of 4 or 5 sales reps in the country by year 3 or year 4. Was having success, and some of that was me, some of it was luck, some of it was the team that was around, and the area that they placed us in, and all that. As a young kid, I was a pretty confident and sometimes maybe too confident, but ultimately they moved me from. I had some friends out in California, had gone out to visit. I loved it out here. And I was with my wife at the time. We weren't married yet, but we wanted to get out to San Diego. So a job had opened up, and I had asked if they would transfer us, which they did. So that's kind of how we ended up in San Diego. And then upon getting out here, the cost of living and making ends meet, Hormel is a very, very good company, very well known for developing people, but it's a Midwest-based company, and the comp structure is what it is. I always had pretty aggressive ambitions to grow and to get into business for myself, just watching my dad and so forth. Yeah. So basically I started kind of looking around, and one of the things that I kind of landed on was, I remember looking at a business for sale. This was when we had newspapers that were, that was the main source. I was looking at businesses for sale, and I kind of just, for some reason, I said, I'm good at negotiation. I could sell. So maybe I can, sell businesses. So I started kind of doing a little bit of that on the side. Had some success. It was a struggle kind of getting started, but then ultimately that income started to pick up. And then, I was able and ready to make the transition to a full-time real estate person. So that's and then from there I met a business partner, and we started Location Matters. That's kind of how that piece of it came about.
I cannot imagine having a full-time job and then also trying to build your own business on the side. That sounds really challenging.
Yeah, I mean, it was all hands on deck. I mean, we at the time I was then living with my now wife, and I can remember, after we were done, or I was done work during the day, we would go out, and she would help me put flyers under businesses, trying to see if I could find sellers. Wow. And we were just trying to make ends meet, and it was just a hustle is what it was. And, we came out here, we didn't have a lot of money. So I had an education. I was grateful for that, but, I had to try to figure out how to make something happen.
Yeah. So what did that experience teach you about the restaurant industry?
I interacted with a lot of owners and operators, and for the most part, I think most of them were great people. And I think I just was always drawn to the industry, in the ability to serve people. And, I just was interested in really I really was interested in the people that were having success, taking care of other people. That was kind of the initial piece of it. But then as I got into the real estate side of it and we started doing real estate deals, I started to pay attention to the types of concepts that were successful, where money was coming from, how deals were being structured, what made for good real estate and all of that. Right. So that kind of really piqued my interest. And then one of our clients, and I think it was 2009, was Burger Lounge. And we helped.
What?
Yeah. So obviously San Diego born and bred, and Dean Loring and Mike Gilligan, who are the founders of that brand, just two really good human beings. And when they were getting ready to do their fourth location in Little Italy, they needed capital. And we kind of just said, well, we'll figure it out. We'll help you with the money. So that was kind of our first initial foray into investing as a restaurant operator, right? And I wasn't an operator at that time, but as an investor, that was the first step. So I pulled a group of money together and we invested in the Burger Lounge that was in Little Italy. And then, if you want me to keep going, I can. It's just like,
yeah. Well, I would love to know. Yeah, like how Broken Yolk came into it, because I read that the one in Orange was struggling when you took it over.
Yeah, so I can kind of I'll kind of fast forward this as best as I can because it's obviously a lot in there. But effectively, we made the investment in Burger Lounge, and then I really liked the investment side of it, so I started to make more investments. And when we got to the the Broken Yolk transaction, we really decided to make an investment in an operating partner at the time. And it didn't work out. That he was going through some things. The business was struggling. And it was the first time that I had that happen. Everything else had worked, but we had 16 investors and we had a business that was in trouble. So, at that time decided to kind of jump into the business. We took it over and, I was working in the restaurant 6 days a week, 7 days a week, trying to figure things out. And so, that's how I got started as an operator.
Wow. So what were some of the challenges that you guys were facing with them being struggling, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, well, I think one of the first challenges was that I didn't know anything about operating a restaurant. So, it was kind of a crash course that I needed to learn in the process. We were struggling because the leadership up to that point was not good. And we were challenged just taking care of guests in our restaurants and not getting food to tables on time. And, the service in the front of the house was just not very good. So all of that kind of was going on, building the right team and the drama that takes place, the culture in the environment, all of that. Like we came out of the gates and the restaurant did well for a couple of weeks. And then as everybody started realizing what was going on, we kind of started cratering. So, and then in the process, it took me some time to learn what it meant to get the right people on board, and then, learn what it meant to start using some of the systems that we needed to start using. And fortunately, what really happened in that process, because I was so hands-on, there was a server in our restaurant. Her name is McKenna Ortega, and she was running circles around me. And her and I kind of built a relationship, and I was starting to kind of learn kind of what was going on. And she had some previous management experience. We had gone through a couple different managers that didn't work. And essentially was able to convince her to take over the operations, and she's still with us today, and a big reason why we've had the success that we've had. Yeah.
That's so cool. Wow. Yeah. Good for her. That's amazing. Well, I also read that you had a trusted mentor that guided you through that crucial phase. So how did that mentorship shape your career, and what are the biggest leadership lessons that came from that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I've had a variety of different mentors. My dad was one of them. Michael Mack, who was part of the soup plantation business as the CEO, kind of helped to mentor me on culture and value system, and helped us with some of that. It was a big part of it. I've got some mentors now. When we were doing the Broken Yolk deal, one of my investors was the former CFO of Marie Callender's. And so it was just really helpful to be able to have a dialogue about, hey, what's going on, and feeling like the earth was falling every single day. And I think one of the biggest thing that he kind of said to me that still resonates with me today is, is the bad thing about the restaurant business is every day is a new day. The good thing about the restaurant business is every day is a new day. So, that's kind of carried me in that moment to just kind of continue on and do the things we needed to do.
That's such great advice. And I love seeing like the Broken Yolk now, hearing this story. It's such a beautiful restaurant. Like the one in Irvine is close to us. And from the outside, you would just think it's like just, a diner, but you come inside and you're just like, whoa, this is so pretty inside. And the food's great. The service is great. Like every time I've been there, it's just been a great experience.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I know we've won best breakfast for 3 years in a row in Orange County. And that's a big deal for us. It's a big deal for the team that's there. And it's really a tribute to the leadership at all the stores, our McKenna, as I spoke of before, and then the team members that are there. We've got a mission of providing the most compelling guest experience possible. And they're doing a great job. They live it every single day.
Definitely. Okay. So tell me a bit about how Sweet 100 and Grain and Grit Collective came about.
Yeah. So Sweet 100, I kind of going back. So it was the original kind of investment vehicle that I had created to invest in restaurants. So I initially wanted to raise a fund and invest in, at the time, which was right around 2009, 10, emerging restaurants were in that kind of fast casual, like the burger lounge category. And then the upscale casual dining category was really taking off. So was focused on that area. But subsequently made some investments in some other restaurants, and Carnita Snack Shack was really the one mainly that we invested in. I think that was 2011, and then Broken Yolk came in 2013. So Sweet 100 was really our investment vehicle, or my investment vehicle. And then in 2018, we created Grain and Grit, which was really to formalize the management company and the structure of the management team, and create a brand that would embody our values in all of our restaurants. So that's where Grain and Grit came from.
Yeah, well, speaking of your values, you guys have expanded obviously so much. So what values or guiding principles have helped you scale while maintaining such a strong culture?
Yeah, no, I mean, we live and breathe those values. They're critical for us. For us, we have a set of values, which we consider the grain part. So we have 5 values total, but the grain part is authenticity and caring and kindness. And in simple form, we say, look, you've got to be genuine. You have to be yourself. And when it comes to, obviously dealing with people, you've got to be caring and kind. And that to us, you either have that or you don't. Like if those, as part of being grain, you can't teach those 2 values. Right. So we really hire and fire for those 2 values as non-negotiable. Right. Mm-hmm. And then the grit part is passion and perseverance. So the passion part being having purpose. And we do believe that, when we bring people into our team, that we can help them identify where passion comes from and where purpose comes from, helping to identify that in our development process. And then as far as perseverance, that's really just setting goals and being able to overcome obstacles to achieve your goals. So that's critical with the team. And then the 5th value is accountability, which the accountability value for us is real self-accountability. We think about not the traditional corporate structure where I'm telling everybody what to do. It's actually reverse. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to serve our team. And so if we're doing the right things, then everybody can be self-accountable to that process. It's about how we can help them be a better person, a better leader, better family member, a better community member. It's not just about what happens in the restaurants.
Yeah. Wow. You guys sound like an incredible company to work for. I love those values.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I really enjoy, it's really enjoyable to be around the team because of what they embody and who the type of people that they are.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, you're also passionate about community involvement and youth mentorship, especially through sports. So how has your coaching background informed the way that you lead teams?
Yeah. Well, sports was such a huge part of my upbringing.
Mhm.
I don't know if, the world today, sports is so different. You've got these travel teams and the kids are we have three boys. So,
Mhm.
we spend a tremendous amount of time shuttling them around and coordinating their activities. At least my wife does a great job with that. And I help as best I can. But, the world that we live in is kind of that's the landscape of it. I think when we were growing up, we played seasonal sports, but sports were a very important part of my development. And I think a lot of other people's development, just learning,
Mhm.
the team nature of it, learning how to deal with failure, was a big part of it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, uh, so having the three boys, I've gotten involved in coaching their teams, and the benefit that's come from that is ultimately I care most about kind of where kids end up in later in life, and
Yeah.
I love the sports and the skill teaching and all that part of it. It's great, but honestly, my value system, a lot of it came from what my father taught me, and to have the ability to share that with others,
Mhm.
and teach kids. So for the baseball team, for example, we have a set of values. We have a value system called SMILE. So it's self-control, maximum effort, inner strength, loyalty, and enthusiasm. And when I'm working with them and talking to them, that's what success will look like. If you want to have a successful practice or a successful game, live our values. It's not a matter of what the scoreboard is. So,
Yeah.
being able to share those types of things with them at an early age, given the environment we're in, where it seems like everybody's trying to one up another in the sports environment
Mhm.
with their kids, and there's this like arms race who can be the better this and that. And I think that to me is the most important thing, is that we're able to continue to focus on what the most important thing is out of sports, which is to teach kids how to be better people, how to live better lives. That's
Yeah.
that's why I'm in it.
God, I feel like I would have liked sports better if I had a coach like that. I did not.
No, did you play any sports?
I played soccer for like maybe a year or two, but it was not. I
Yeah,
very much like wasn't very into it, but I love the idea of the values aspect of it.
yeah.
That's really, I love the perspective of that. Well, looking ahead, what excites you most about the future of Grain and Grit Collective and the impact that you hope to make in the communities that you serve?
Yeah, I think I'm just most excited about the fact that what we're doing is, it might sound silly or I don't know, but it's just real. I mean, we've had to go through some difficult times. We had a food hall, which we had to close in February, which we'd opened that in 2018. And we had a lot of success. And then we struggled transitioning and figuring out what was going on during the COVID period. And, it really took a toll on the team.
Mm.
But through that failure, we have learned a tremendous amount. And I think it's strengthened the people that are still here. And, I think for us, we were able to really kind of clean out some of that baggage, if you will.
Mm.
So this past year, we really focused on operationally dialing things in and making sure our culture was adjusted. We were putting the right emphasis and focus on certain things. And then, this upcoming year, we're going to look for growth opportunities to acquire some additional restaurant assets.
Ooh.
And we might even look at some other segments in some other industries as well. We've been kind of looking at some different things that way. But it always comes back, and it will continue to come back to the opportunity that I have and our team has to share our value system, to share our way of life and the way of doing things with more people. And our goal overall is right now, we'd like to double the size of the company in the next 2 to 3 years. So,
Amazing.
a big part of that is it's not about necessarily the financial aspect of it. It's really about being able to share who we are and what we do daily, and what it means with more people.
Amazing. Can we look forward to maybe a Carnitas Snack Shack coming to Orange County?
Yeah, I don't. That's a good question. I've been asked about the growth of Carnitas and what we're doing with it. We have a very unique location at the Embarcadero, which
Oh,
is done very, very well next to the Midway Museum. It's a tourism environment. We
mhm.
also have a ballpark location at Petco. And then in 2000, believe it or not, I think it's 28,
Uh-huh.
we have a location coming at the San Diego airport.
Wow.
So that should be a lot of fun. But yeah, we love the brand. And I think, we're going to look at some different opportunities to grow it. We do have the ability and are looking for additional Broken Yolk sites in Orange County.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
so there's going to be further expansion there. We're just kind of being selective. We want to make sure we find the right space for it.
Definitely. Well, we're coming to the end of our time. Before I let you go, we have three final questions that we call the thoughtful three. So first, what's one aspect of the hospitality industry that tends to surprise people once they're actually part of it?
Yeah, I think people just in general understand um, how hard the restaurant business is, right? Everybody kind of says, yeah, the restaurant business is hard.
Mhm.
Um, I think that people underestimate the leadership opportunities and the life skills that can come out from being part of the industry. And oftentimes I'll hear, even people that aren't in the industry it might be a lender, it might be a vendor, it might be just somebody else that we're doing business with that says, I used to clean dishes here, or I was a cook here, or, I was a server here.
Mhm.
And man, it made me a better person, and I think something that a lot of times that stuff gets forgotten when everybody's in the weeds doing what they're doing. But yeah.
Yeah, I've actually heard of that from a lot of my friends who have worked at restaurants as well. It helps,
Yeah.
I feel like it trains your mind to be able to take on a lot of stress and handle it calmly.
Yeah, at the very least, this was a session yesterday I did in a CEO group that I'm in. We did a conflict resolutions session. And I'm thinking I'm going to take that and bring it back to the teams, because no matter how good your culture is, there is always, an environment, and sometimes situations come up. But, I feel like the restaurant industry, there's a lot of conflict that needs to be resolved with the different personalities and so forth and different positions. And, that's an example of, hey, let's learn something new and let's learn how we can apply it, not just in the business, but also outside of the business.
Yeah, right. Well, what skills or qualities have been crucial to your success?
I would say the number one thing is perseverance.
Mm,
I'm pretty good at setting goals and identifying the things that I want to get after. I think overcoming failure and picking myself back up and just moving forward. That's been a big thing. And I'll say to the kids that I coach often, hey, failure is not fatal. Right. It actually presents
yeah.
an opportunity, and you need to be willing to be self-aware and recognize that you've made a mistake or something hasn't worked out, and you have to own a part of that process. But it can make you stronger if you embrace that part of the process. So I think that's probably the number one thing. And then honestly, I think the other thing is I'm not afraid to put my family first.
Yeah.
And that was just something growing up that I always wanted to have a strong family and the stage where my kids are and so on and so forth. And I think for our team members, giving them space to put their families first when they need to, and making sure that they have a level of balance between work and, why are we doing what we're doing? Ultimately, they need to be able to go home and take care of the people that matter most to them. So that's really important.
Yeah, so important. Well, lastly, how do you measure success now versus how you did when you were first starting out?
Yeah, that one is very kind of crystal clear for me. I think, first
Mm,
coming out, it was like, how can I go make the most money? I want to be
right.
financially free. And, that's really what it was all about. And I've never been a person to think about awards and those types of things. I just, that was kind of it. I think going back to kind of the last response to that question is, I think my family comes first. So
Mhm.
making sure that I have the time to spend with them, that's what success looks like from a kind of my perspective that way. But then, I think it really boils down to, are we living our values every single day? Right. Am I who I say I am? And am I a person of my word? if I am doing that, then I'm going to have a successful day. Things might not go my way, but I'm going to have a successful day. And the score might be in the other direction today, but tomorrow I'm going to keep chipping at my goals, and we're going to change that. So, that to me is the difference. Is probably more financial and scoreboard driven, in my early 20s or 20s and 30s. But now it's much more around that value system and just trying to do the things that I love to do.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This was such an inspiring conversation. I really had a great time talking with you.
Thanks, Chelsea. Yeah, I enjoyed chatting with you as well.